Now, I'm sure you guys have heard that Ganyu has been, leakerinoed a little bit there. We have her skills and damage numbers and things like that, but she looks really cool. She looks really cool in the game. When I first saw her, I was like, I could be about this. I could be about pulling for this character eventually if she was a unit, and then, this is all stuff to be released yet, but this is the biggest whale bait unit I think I've ever seen in my entire life. So let's get into it, guys. Out of any of the games, any of the characters that I've seen, she's got some really cool stuff going on. But man, if this isn't the biggest whale bait I've seen of any character out there, this is the one. So she's got a unique aspect about her, right? She's a bow cryo character, but she does have a unique 2 charges to her charge level on her charged attack. Now, this is going to be things that we need to go back and talk about, so you need to know that this is a thing. So just like any other bow character, if you charge up her shot, it turns into whatever element that she is. So in her case, it is cryo damage. But her charge level 2 fires off something called a frost flake arrow that deals cryo damage, and the frost flake arrow blooms and does AoE damage when it hits the target. So that is a big thing to keep in mind. Keep in mind, she has a second layer of to fully charge her shot. You have to charge it up a little bit more, and it makes it do AoE damage. And you can see the bloom damage on this thing. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty spicy. A 516% AoE. That's the AoE part, plus the Frostflake arrow itself does 304%. Total 800% in multiplier. 300% single target, 500% AoE. That's huge, okay? Now here's her second skill. She's going to sound very familiar to you guys out there. Trail of the Keelan leaves an ice flower behind, and she dashes backward, and the ice flower taunts things, and then it blows up after a certain period of time, or after it gets destroyed from the monsters who are taunted by it attacking it. And it goes up to 313% damage. This sounds very similar to another 4-star pyro character that everyone gets right away at the start of the game, considering that her elemental burst, Celestial Shower, is also very similar to that. She shoots ice that rains down on enemies for 15 seconds. It lasts 15 seconds, has a 20-second duration, costs 80 energy. And also it does up to 166% multiplier per wave of energy or damage that is rained down on your enemies during that 15 seconds. So this does a large amount of damage. Now, if you compare this character so far, what we've talked about, she's a cryo archer, right? There's a pyro archer that has a taunting bunny that blows up and does pyro damage. She's got a taunting ice flower that blows up and does cryo damage, and they both have this continuous rain for an elemental burst. She's basically 5-star version of Amber so far. But what about her ascensions? What happens here? So her ascensions, the passive one that, refunds you ore and stuff, is for bow weapons. Her first ascension level, firing a frost-like arrow, a crit rate of your other arrows is increased by 20% for 5 seconds. So the frost-like arrows, the second charge tier, so it's going to be very important to be using that second charge tier for this character, has increased area of effect by 20% for 5 seconds, and the crit rate as well. So it's going to have the area of effects 20% crit hit rate increase. So that's going to be a damage increase there as long as you're using the second charge rate. Her ult, Celestial Shower, gains 20% cryo damage bonus to anyone who is inside the AoE. So when you ult, you want to walk into your own AoE. That way you get the 20% cryo damage bonus increase. So very, very kind of not very fun looking character so far. Doesn't sound very strong. Basically 5-star version of Amber at C0. And this is why she is, and I'm calling her whale bait. What do I mean by that? It means if you want to get the crazy broken characters like Childe Syndrome, except you can do a lot of cool stuff with C0 Childe. If you want to do some really cool stuff with Ganyu, you're going to want her Constellations because she turns into a freaking monster. All right, from what we can know right now. So the first constellation right here, Dew Drinker, taking damage from a level 2 Frost-like arrow or the bloom decreases their cryo resist by 15% for 6 seconds. And a hit regenerates 2 energy for her. So this does 2 things for you here. It's going to give you that cryo resist down. Remember, the bloom is AoE, so anyone hit by that bloom is going to have their cryo res dropped, and it's going to regenerate some of your cryo energy so you can get quicker elemental bursts. The second constellation here is going to give additional charge to her E. Now that doesn't sound too big right now, but it will eventually. So you can have an extra taunt, bloom, and it's going to taunt your enemies in there. That means longer durations of people standing inside of your ultimates, more additional damage, and here comes the next one. All right, here comes the next one to make her ult even better. C4 here, Enemies standing within the area of effect of your Celestial Shower take increased damage, starting at 5% extra damage, going up to 25%, and the stacks increase by 5% every 3 seconds. And the effect lingers by 3 seconds if the enemy does make it out of the area of effect. So this also does say they take increased damage, period. So if you're playing like some multiplayer content in the future, they're going to just be taking 25% more damage from everyone in your party, which is huge there. So that's why the additional charge on your taunt arrow, your elemental skill, matters even more. But it doesn't stop there. So this is where it comes all the way back around. I'm sure you've seen it already. C6, using Trail of the Keelan, which is going to be her elemental skill here, causes her next Frostflake arrow within 30 seconds of using her E to not require any charge time at all. So that's going to be her big charge. The second level of charge doesn't require you to charge up at all after using elemental skill. So what does this mean? This means that you can throw out your elemental skill, throw out your elemental burst. All the enemies will be taunted towards your little flower there, so they start taking increased damage. The flower blows up, does its own damage. You get a free shot. You can throw that shot right into them, get that cryo resistance down, does 800% damage on its own. Your ult's still raining down on them. You throw another taunt flower in there, you get another free charge too on your shot. You can kind of see where this leads. She goes from being like the most basic character ever. She's like, I got a taunt, I got something that I can rain enemies down on. It's kind of cool. And then it goes into, I can imperil a cryo resist, drop that resist by 15%. I get free 800% damage procs, 2 of them, because now I have 2 charges of my elemental skill out there. Enemies are going to be taking 25% increased damage because they're all trapped in this stuff. She becomes this crazy monstrosity of a character at C6 compared to what she is at C0. Not every character is like that, but she is going to be one of them, and she's going to be a monster at C6 from what we know right now. Now take this in mind. This is all being worked on right now. This is not finalized information in any way, shape, or form. But she does so many things way better. She's an entirely different character at C6, which is why a lot of people out there call that Childe Syndrome, because technically Childe is a different kind of character at C6 because it has 100% uptime on his melee form. But that's like the one thing that kind of changes between his constellations. A lot of the stuff on his constellations are pretty good, but one of them like is overwritten C1 by having C6, whereas she just keeps getting better and better and better. And you don't really get, and I think this is the big difference between comparing someone like Childe, who just gets really strong with Constellation. That's totally fine to have someone get strong with Constellations. It's 100% okay with me. But this is, it's almost like this character, the base kit is so basic that it's almost like they don't really have a kit, right? She's literally just 5-star version of Amber out here at C0, but once you get her to C6, she's got an entirely different playstyle that isn't existent in her base kit whatsoever. This would be like if C6 and C4 and Childe combined like gave him melee form for the first time, right? He's got some cool stuff, double procs on his C4, full uptime melee time on his C6, but this one is every single time the additional charge matters a ton on her elemental skill, because the extra charge on her elemental skill gives her another free full charge level 2 shot with no charge time whatsoever, which is insanely strong. The ability to give increased damage taken from all sources with the effect of having an extra charge, those work too well together, because now your enemies are going to be taunted in your ult for an extended period of time. They're having their cryo resistance dropped as well from your Frostflake arrow. That's C1, that's cool. You get the cryo imperil, but you don't get the full use out of it until you get C6, because then you get the cryo imperil firing off 800% damage mods left, right, and center. She's just going to be able to rain destruction down in like 4 different ways, 5 different ways in a short amount of time there, and she can't do any of that stuff at all whatsoever at C0. It's an interesting way to design a character, and I see what they're kind of trying to do here, because I've been around the gacha game market for a long time. I've been playing these sorts of games for quite a while, and Genshin Impact's no different. It's a good game. I love this game, and I understand what they're doing here. They're trying to see if they could sell you not just a 5-star character. That's why I said it's a whale bait character. They're trying to see if they can sell a specific part of the audience a C6 5-star character, because this character really only becomes, you know, it only blossoms once it's at C6. Once it has C6, you have all of the cards to the deck to use Ganyu, but until you have all of the constellations, you're gonna be missing some sort of pieces of the puzzle. You're not gonna really be able to utilize her in the ways that a lot of other players can, especially that C6 one. That's a lot of free damage. That is 2 fully charged shots. So at the end of the day, if you get her maxed out eventually. That is a huge amount. That's 800% free, no charge damage. Quick, get in there. Instant Imperil, 800% instant, 800% AoE again while all of that damage is raining down. And then you can fire up a normal one, throw it in there once again there. It has a 12-second cooldown. So you'll probably be able to you can get 3 fully charged shots in there during the duration of your ultimate, because you throw out the Ice Lotus, you start using the Elemental Burst, you do a free charge shot, you throw out another Ice Lotus, you throw out another free charge shot, you fit a normal charge level 2 shot in there, then you throw out another Ice Lotus into a free charge shot. So you're gonna get 4 of those charge shots inside of your Elemental Burst if you have C6. 3 of them being instant cast there, so you can get that Imperil in there, you get that 25% damage buff. It's a nutty thing there. So keep that in mind if you're a Ganyu fan, if you want to have access. You've been hearing people talk about all the crazy stuff that you can do. A lot of that power comes from her Constellations. And outside of that, she literally is C0. She's pretty much Amber. She's pretty much Amber that has the effect of having an extra charge AoE effect on her charge level 2 there. So that's what we know about her right now, guys. You want to see more stuff, Genshin Impact content, things to look forward to in the future, or for current content and learn how to use everything that you have at your hands math-wise. Come and hang out with us. It's always a good time. Until then, guys, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.